Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to The Mob. It is Live with The Mob with Daniel, Craig, and Joey.
All right, this week we are back. We are live in The Mob, and we have Steve Cox with us. Steve, how are you doing this week?
Pretty good. A little bit tired. We are in the midst of a big road trip and didn't get a lot of sleep last night, so it's kind of like a sleep deprivation study right now for Piano and myself. But all in all, doing pretty good.
Oh, good.
Got the charger here.
Yeah. So,
all right,
we're making a long road trip here, and what are we making this long road trip for?
To get the paint on 57. So, if you want to talk a little bit about the history of that, I can. So, originally this car had been in another body shop and had a lot of work done to it. It was basically kind of ready for, or probably 3/4 or better, ready for doing the final stages. Just going to fly around here, but of sanding and stuff. And I won't bore you with the long, sad story, but it's the typical body shop deal thing where schedules fall apart and budgets fall apart. And I'm a pretty principled guy, so to make a long story short, I pulled it out of the shop it was in. And brought it back home. I had another guy that was, it's been a long time friend of mine. He's a really good painter, but was going to finish the car, and he's a kind of an older gentleman, and he had some health issues and some cancer issues and stuff. And make a long story short, he's not doing work anymore. So then that was my second method to paint it that kind of fell apart. So Piano had a friend that is a really good painter, and of course the big problem for me is that Piano and I both now are in Kentucky, and this guy's in Lebanon, Maine, so it's almost dead on 1,000 miles apart. So originally we had just kind of threw down this man, two, one up and back to deliver it, and then another one up and back. It's kind of maybe a little bit too forward for that to work out. But then the discussion kind of became and myself, son. I'm not a guy. I've done a little bit of it in the past, but to do some of the on it and paint the inside and paint the firewall, all the inner fender stuff and all that, to where the would only be car, and then we could come up here and stay until the car's finished. So that's a different scenario than in other words, we come up here in 8 days and pretty much have the car ready to start putting it together. Or
all right. I guess I'm going to backtrack a little bit, Steve, because I know that you've been a member of the Mob page here. So you're one of the OGs because you joined back in December 3rd of 2017, and a very good participator as we really started out pushing participation at the first point of this whole group. And ever since then, I can at least count on a weekly fun picture from Steve, and that's about all I can say about that. And so I appreciate that because I've had to drop the ball on that because I'm under the watch all the time. So I let you guys do some of that posting now. So we're gonna I guess go a little farther back. But Steve, I've always known you as Steve Cox. To your friends locally or people you grew up with, do you have any nicknames that you could care to share? It'll stay between us.
sure there's been a few named, but out night, my wife's hyphenating last.
Well, they have a vaccine for that, I think, don't they?
She decided. She decided not to hyphenate her.
Steve, we know you're in Kentucky, and obviously you and I have met a couple times at the Nationals. What town in Kentucky do you live in?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's about the worst. Got probably. It's about maybe 10 or 15 miles north.
How long have you been there?
It's in the middle, about 60 miles to Cincinnati. So it's kind of, they call it the area to be in almost any of the major parts of Kentucky with less than an hour or so. 2 years or something. I'm originally from Summer, which is under Lake Cumberland. It's the bigger towns there, and Dad was a service work, and he was kind of the local guy that did one of the few cams and gears and things like kind of, and a lot. He traded around on us, and he had a 55 Chevrolet, and all the time was trading around on. So he had a before I was born, and kind of got out of it when kids came along. But I up around a lot of that, and was die shop, and I'd always wanted to do machining in general too. But I got into the tool and die side, and then started doing a lot of dirt model stuff, and for a machine shop in Somerset that still does do a lot of those late model stuff, and world about a lot of big aspirated small block stuff was kind of my engine machining background. And then Toyota came to Georgetown about started planting in '88, and then they brought a powertrain division in and started up in about 1990, and I came, got into that program, and then wound up with my background. It was just a matter of the right place at the right time, and my background led me into the next 30 years. Did primarily machining, production lines, blocks, cranks, heads, rods. We did all those parts in the house, and at the volume enough for like 600,000 or 700,000 engines. We were always pretty much working on some kind of machining equipment.
Super. You mentioned something about it's a 57, but like give us a, what's the body trim? What's the style of it?
Background or car background. I worked on car life in some. It's a 57 two-door hardtop Bel Air Norwood car. It was built on the day after Thanksgiving. I bought the car in the town in Georgia, about 60 miles east of Atlanta. The car, I'd always planned on doing a much new body, not totally, but pretty much new body car, and doing a lot of, so I wasn't too worried about the shape of anything on the front and rear. Again, I wasn't exactly sure going to be when I bought it, but it's a rough car when I bought it. But it had a frame, parts that I needed, and a VIN plate. So ash and stuff like that, and a solid enough piece repair. So it's had a lot of work done on that. So the chassis was probably the challenge. I did it. I'd done a lot of from where I'd done a lot of dirt car stuff. I knew a lot of chassis builders over the years, and had worked for really good dirt car programs, and been involved in those chassis work and suspension work and stuff like that. So it was totally new to me, but rules that you can't buy. Then it was a matter, I built and started cutting, and I landed kind of grafting a C4 Corvette for suspension into the chassis. That took me in my spare time about to do that. So, but in the end, it's going to work. I don't know if I would do the rear end again if I was doing it all over. I probably would definitely recommend the front end. It's on a Tri-5 if you want to go that route. It's a lot of work to do it, but back and feeding the steering and
yeah, we can dive in a little bit, but basically that doesn't that C4 have a torque arm for that 300 runs up to the front of it in the back?
It's a good route to go, but it's a lot of work to get there. It does on the factory. I didn't go hardly that far on my car. My car's finally ain't that, so it's just going to be a fun driver. And so I'm familiar with the Art Morrison chassis, that bracing across and then ran the torque arm up to the back. The IRS is a little bit different.
So you kind of mentioned a little bit that you worked for Toyota, and you were in the machining. So, sometimes people kind of want to know a little bit about, background. How do we pay for these projects? What do you do? How did you get into it? I mean, being a machinist, you're dealing, mathematicians dealing decimals, and it's just so you touched a little bit on that. Any. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. But really helpful is you learn how to really accurately measure things. Working on big, you learn how to measure accurately, and as you work, being able to do that is so, even put bolt patterns and things, and chassis jig D-stock points, and then cut stuff off and be able to, for example, on the frame, you still have to have the bumper pickup points back in the same. But now the frame is way in from where it used to be, but you had to have the bumper. You can do that. Same thing with the core support mount. When you do a custom clip on the front of it, really be careful with it, and you get a lot of discussion. When you're setting the engine and the chassis, of all of that, and I think anyway, but it is set typically about 3 degrees. The answer to that is so you don't have that the engine has to be that way. It's a drive shaft tunnel where reduction is the reason done that well. You wind up when you put a clip. How do you beginning a little bit if you don't mind, because it's a big thing that, like, you know, I went to car shows, and how do you want the car to sit, and how high do you want it to rake in a car? You know, high car shows, and you know how trying to do. So you find some guy and say, mind if I roll under here with the measuring tape?
Right.
You know what, measure guarantee you. As long as you didn't touch nothing there, they were okay with this. So, you know, once you kind of grant 6 inches in the front, 7 in the back, well, then you start to say, well, okay, it doesn't really make that much difference as far as the tire is the biggest thing. So and I want my frame rail to tie off the ground. That kind of is what you got to do. Then once you know, you got to decide how you want your engine, because the engine does have to set relative to pick up is your bigger carburetor setting level and stuff. But
starve it of oil and whatnot. You don't want to starve it from
model
oil.
Or so the carburetor is most of the time, but
correct.
Yeah, bags made that really easy to achieve as far as a low car. But if you can go places and you can see cars and look at their stance, and you can see where bolt-on things just don't work anymore, and you can see something that's got a lot different stance to it, and there's had to been some substantial work to it.
Little center lines, but
Amber's like that.
Right.
Like some general with it.
It's funny you say that, because when I had my suspension rebuilt a couple years ago after the brake froze up and all that stuff, I dropped the car down from where I originally built it, dropped it about an inch and a quarter in the front, and I have just coilover, so I just had to dial them down, bring the height down, and I had it realigned, and it's amazing what that does. Just that little bit, the bump steer is all different. I actually think the ride was much better where I was at my first year with it, but of course, according to Brian Reese and half the other guys, that stance is everything, and I get that. So I dropped it down, and it steers completely. It's still fine, but it's a completely different car. So,
right.
That's cool.
Hey, real quick, Steve, is what you're using for the video feed, is it on the Wi-Fi there, or is it on data? Okay, because on my live feed we're getting some freezing. I didn't know if maybe you can turn on the Wi-Fi on what you're using on there. Okay,
they're at the Motel 6. They left the lights on for you, but the Wi-Fi's turned off.
Okay.
I think we're all on sale.
Okay, cool.
I wonder if they've got one of. I'm just kind of wondering if they have one of those vibrating beds there. I mean, Is it the honeymoon suite? Is it the honeymoon suite for you guys?
They're on sale.
No, Fiano's probably got wooden nickels. He probably wants to get to it.
Well, it might have the wooden nickels from over there in Australia.
So, Steve, I know that we talked a little bit about you've been on the mob since almost day one back in 2017. So we don't have to kind of talk about that a little bit, but you've been here for a long time, which I certainly appreciate, and it's always fun to see the progress because we've watched your car. I've watched your car, and just like Joey's car, and Joey sees because I get a little emotional. Like I've watched Joey build on his car for the last 3-4 years, getting ready to race. So when I saw it at Nationals, I get a little emotional because it's been like a journey. And so, like even your car, I've watched it in stages, and I look at your chassis and I go, well, good God, are you going to road course this thing? How fat, because it's a fantastic looking chassis that's going to mean some serious business. Are you ever thinking, is it going to be more than a cruiser? Like you might try to do some road course or some cross country stuff at all, or?
I bought this totally almost. Well, for one thing, I've never been too awfully, funk detail. I would have never built this car. Told you there a while ago. It was a very, very stressful job, and you I had walls of rooms, and
that was Jim's deal.
A stress relieving for it. And I hobby do that, so I totally forgot about the schedule, and there is about the time mob came thing, but that was kind of
yeah.
You can always. I don't care if it's 5 minutes. When it's not your worry point of the meet or good feeling what kind of powers can do something. And I started jobs, and while I don't have a half day to work day, I'm not even going to go out there. I go out there and do 15 minutes. And time I do those kinds of things. It was really a fact.
Well, you touched on a point that honestly, like, and I give Jim Noren credit for all of this because when he talks about the 1365, that's something that his past boss taught him, was because Jim, just like you get overwhelmed. And when I got my car home, it was 3 weeks before my back surgery, and then all of a sudden you got this painted car, and I got all these parts. And I'm overwhelmed. There's a depression that sets in a little bit because I'm used to being a go-getter and doing things. And that's where Jim had told me, he says, dude, you just got to do one thing a day. That's all you got to do, just move forward. As long as you do one thing a day to move forward. And so, we made the list on the wall. So, and most people on the mob that have been around, some guys haven't been around that long. And I tell people, and I know Fiano knows this too, because Fiano called me, I think I was 4 days out of surgery or 3 days out of surgery, and he had me walk out to my car to measure the valve cover to the firewall, and I couldn't even barely hold I couldn't even barely hold the damn tape measure, but I got out there, right? was like 7 in the morning. I'm up on, Vicodins. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. But you do one thing a day. And then what I found nice, and I know Joey and I have talked about it, and other people have talked about it, is I've transferred it to other parts of my life, such as my relationship with my family or my wife, my job. What's one thing I can do for my job that, to move forward in something? And it truly is. If you can make that list and stick to it, it's amazing what it does for you. And I've told other people about it too. And I preach it, but I do it throughout my life, just not even the car now. It's never going to be done because I keep breaking shit or something keeps going wrong. So I'm always fixing, but it's about moving forward. So it's nice to hear, but like you said, the motivation of posting, you can never post enough. I wish we had guys that posted more because I like seeing the progress pictures. I try hard not to just post pictures of the side of my car, the motor of my car, because everybody knows what it looks like. I want to do the videos when I break stuff and I got to refix it, and something like that. So that's perfect, and is what it is.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got stagnant on my and go through. I'm like, holy shit, man! Here we go again, and I just kind of, I'll start, but in my case, somebody comes and looks at it and sees it's had a lot of work done. They kind of worry, like, hey, problem customer or something, and so it's like, hey, well, tell us what happened. Like, I got to start do all that again. And he and I have been working together on he kind of said, hey, we got to get this car done, and he kind of fired up on it, the whole deal of what we're doing right now, and the nationals and all that kind of stuff. Several folks message me, and hey, you think about this and think about it. But I think it's a good place. So he's playing around in his garage, and I've been, I the best way to do something, or the best way to move something. And
well,
you
really
wish.
Yeah, like 30. I mean, like I said, 30 minutes in the garage is 30 minutes.
Do some more
closer to getting done. Even organizing things. Because it's still something in the garage. Maybe you're waiting on parts or whatever, but it's getting things getting things set up so when your stuff does come in, or you have a little more time to actually do it. I mean, that's one thing I really like about this group is we post stuff, and we can all post finished cars and side shots and back shots and fronts and all that stuff, and it's cool. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it does push each other to see things that people are going through on their car, and then maybe you chime in on it and say, hey, man, I did that. I would do things differently. That'll be one of the questions here later on is like, hey, you've done this so much to your car. Is there anything you would do differently on it? We kind of know what it's kind of going to look like and what your style is. So
just a quick note for anybody who's not watching, but at one point we hit 33 guys watching. We're at 31 right now.
Now here's the one thing that, and I know I've been kind of doing everything else here, not paying 100% attention. And when I did this live feed, it's actually on my personal Facebook page. So there's a few people from my friends list that have popped on, but for the most part, it's mob people. What I did is I put in there. I want everybody to put here and Try Five's rule in the comments. And if you put here and Try Five's rule, everybody that does that, is we're going to use random.org, and we're going to number each one of you, and we'll put the list on the Facebook group as to who's what number and whatever, and we will do a live with the random generator. And with the random generator, we will let that choose one person to get the free shirt that I have, that I'm going to go ahead and pay for whoever wins the free shirt. So, and Craig, was there a number that if we hit that you were going to do something?
Well, I know we talked about 30, and I said I'd do the same thing because Daniel was going to put up a T-shirt, and I was going to do the same thing. So we'll take we'll random select the two guys out of it, and go from there. I just got a message from Brian Michaud also, because he can't comment because he's in jail because he talked about killing somebody on Facebook. So so he's in Facebook jail for 3 days. So, but we got to add him to the list when we can.
Okay.
But Jay Brooks, we can take him off because he just gives me crap on here. You know, he wants me to talk about my engine temps, and I'm not going to do it tonight. So they're fine.
So I'll throw this out there. We'll do another one, and we'll see. I'll talk with Daniel and see what numbers we want to get to. But once I get shirts in, I will throw in a Gold Digger shirt.
All right.
There you go.
Well, so a Gold Digger shirt. I mean, if we can get to, let's say we get to 40 people. If we get to 40 people, we'll pick one person to get a Joey True Love Gold Digger T-shirt. So, and that
can be. We're gonna get to 50. I'll autograph it.
if we get to 50, it can be autographed.
If we get to 50 tonight, I'm going to go down to Kentucky this winter just to put Steve's flippers in. I really want to put Steve's flippers in. Well, I had to say something because once again I got Jay Brooks here commenting about the flippers because anybody knows that bugs the hell out of me when I go to shows and the flippers ain't working, you know. So it is what it is, but
you're more than welcome to do that when the time comes.
Yep. Oh, it'll go fast once you get it home. It'll be fast.
Yeah.
So what's kind of left on it, Steve? So kind of where, I mean, at what point? Just kind of give. I mean, we've seen some of the updates, but on this session here, like, give us some what's really the left. Do you have any long lead turn items that need to be ordered, or parts, or something else, or?
No, I worked for I've waited to get current stuff on those, and I think it's going to be a big jump. If I was doing it now, I wouldn't haul it. I'd use a GM computer on. Mm-hmm. So I got a stamp. So that kind of runs the engine and transmission, and the bearing harness for the car. I mean, it's got to have a button, and it's got. But then that's kind of yet another. None of it's that difficult. It's just route.
Are you doing a drive-by wire setup, or are you doing a cable?
Separating some of this one uses. You got to have two sensors for EFI of that nature, but it's not going to be cable. In the driver's side inner fender, so I'm a little bit. Harness length is correct exactly where it's got to go to literally be in there. So I'm hoping I don't have to cut that big bundle and change those two big connectors to short it a little bit. So the 100 or so wires that have to be repinned and all. I really hope I don't have to do I do, and it's what from there. It's interior. I've got a guy that's going to do that. And
what made you decide? What made you decide on a 57? When did you fall in love with the Tri-5 or think you needed that?
February-ish. I don't know. I'm hoping to have it done by up on that. We're going to take my time and do it. So, but I've always liked Tri-5s in general. I mentioned a while ago my dad had a 55, but it was I don't know. It's just a car that caught my eye. And I had Camaro years, but I always wanted a 57. And some of the Morrison stuff, and I actually Craig Morrison really well, and talked back and forth with him, and then unfortunately he passed away.
Oh no, that's
COVID.
They said that the progress he made is just phenomenal to watch, and it's fun. So next year at the Nationals, when my wife was at the hotel screaming it's too hot, at least I'll be able to see your car.
7 was always my dream, but just a bit. Yeah, for sure. I don't see any reason it can't happen. But again, I'm when I'm going to do it, I'm not going to get in a hurry. There shouldn't be any real reason why it can't. Now, though, man, I tell you, what is going to be a pain to get? Just a simple AN fit. Like the other day, our lines on my rack and pinion for fitting, and just a PTFE fitting took me like a week and a half to get, and that's something that you normally could pick up. And there's just people saying vintage air be 8 to 12 weeks right now, and you just never know.
So we know the powertrain somewhat. Is there ever a thought of
do something like that?
Since you work for Toyota, that you put a Toyota in it?
You better get parts. You're going to be. You never know what it's going to be. It can be something simple. I probably wouldn't never do that. I don't some pretty stuff. The 6-cylinder supercharged stuff, and that I've been around several of those, and that has the engine, but the only I'll get middle fingered for this one, but the only thing I'm interested in, to me anyway, you're starting to see a little bit of the electric car to do
but
electric.
Hey, I mean, think about it. Don Garlett's had a electric powered dragster, so I mean
that would just be a total. Wouldn't.
No, I've got a friend who's got a Tesla. I'm the first to admit that when he put he put it in crazy mode or whatever you want to say, and when he put his foot down, I mean, it puts you back in that seat.
Plaid mode.
Yeah,
plaid mode, is that what it is? And it puts you right back in the seat. Now, the only thing is, I think the true invention of the whole thing, Steve, is, first of all, the battery capacity has to get a little bit better before I would think about it, because honestly, 10, 15 years down the road, we don't know where we're going to be at as far as gas and prices and everything else, right? And as much as we love hot rod, and we also have to think of the future and go, well, this might not last forever all of a sudden. Things are changing. But the fact is, you look at, okay, Chevy's got the crate motor, Tesla's got their crate motor. If they can get the battery capacity of what somebody wants in a hot rod, which I think is probably there for Saturday night cruises and stuff like that, but you're not taking a road trip yet in it. But I think the real invention is going to be the real subwoofer bass system, where you can program in what motor you want it to sound like and be loud as hell outside with a speaker system, because that's one thing you get in those cars. It's creepy quiet. You know.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it really is. And you know, as a powertrain guy, and I was involved in a lot of really early investigation stuff when like new engines and stuff were coming out. You know, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Toyota owned 25% of Tesla time, and the big hurdles early on were two things: that they're good for 4 hours of travel, and then the batteries needed to be in about an hour, and those come from one thing, and that's that people for 4 hours, and they usually get hungry and they want to eat, and they eat for about an hour. So, you know, every 4 hour stop and plug it in and go eat lunch and come. So that was kind of their first hump to where they thought they could sell cars, and kind of believe that hydrogen stuff will be the answer long term, or heading that way too. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the power grid in the U.S. and globally would struggle very much to go heavy electric car and hydrogen as well. But I look for there to at least both. Oh,
absolutely.
Hydrogen stuff.
Danny, you got the next question?
It's all about politics.
We're leaving you off.
Where money gets and then finally, it takes a long time to shoot.
What are you know? We kind of like talking about, you know, what we can or can't do. You know, things that we have skills of. You know, what are some of the skills or topics that you're strong with, or you know, what would you like to, you know, get better at?
Well, I wasn't a very good welder when I first started working on my car. I've gotten a little bit better, but I kind of try to always be looking at something that I want to get better. As I retired a couple of years ago, almost I'm going to buy a TIG weld, and it's fairly decent. I like pretty good at that. Just you know, it's always good to. I've done the engine control stuff, but understanding the engine controls of EFI cars and understanding the control logic in the computing. So, probably we'll look at doing some of that. And I've got a project I'm maybe going to be. If you guys Bully Racing, they're playing around in the idea of maybe doing some stuff. I probably shouldn't talk too much about this, but probably bringing some machining stuff in house, and I'm maybe going to be talking with them a little bit about some of that. But yeah, they're pretty cool. They're about 2 away from me, about 40 miles or so, and I know Brian really well, so I might dabble in that a little bit. It's kind of similar to what I used to do quite a bit of. So both what he's doing and what he's getting ready to do, I've done.
Let me add a little to that, Daniel. So when you're a hardtop owner, we probably have to have a little more compassion to people that are non-hardtop owners. So that's probably what we all three need to do.
Right. Show compassion. It's, you know, there's a lot of people with special needs out there. Sometimes you just got to put your arm around them and bring them with. Yeah. You know.
Now, you kind of touched on, you know, when you talked about BTR and, you know, some of the stuff that you'd done before at Toyota. You know, what exactly was it that you did at Toyota? I mean, were you in the kind of the R&D department? Were you kind of involved with the NASCAR at all, or?
No, their NASCAR deal is totally separate. It's not even. It is ran by Toyota, a division of Toyota, but it's not anything to do with manufacturing I mean, for you to understand, those engines are they're nothing. they're built for that purpose engine, and it's really interesting when it all kind of took a different direction when Chrysler came back into NASCAR.
Right.
They let them, because they didn't have an engine that would really fit that program, so they kind of let them design an engine like they want to. And then when Toyota came in, now they could use what they could learn from Ford and Chrysler and GM and design another engine. I think an interesting thing about it is that the bell housing pattern for a NASCAR V8 engine from Toyota is a GM bolt pattern. All the crank flange and all that stuff is you could bolt it into a Chevrolet, but no, it's totally separate. But what I did was I was a senior project manager. I ran an engineering group, and it's about 50 people total. And our job was to, if we were getting a new product, we worked some with the engine design, and then won't waste too much time and bore you with this stuff, but an engine gets designed by engine design, and they don't know how to make engines; they know how to design engines. So then it comes into the group that literally procures equipment, and then we say, "Well, holy cow, you can't do that, or you can, but it costs so much money, you can't do it that way, or it's no problem, or whatever." And you have to then plan equipment, and how long does it take to install that equipment? Is it a modified line, new line, and make detailed plans of how to put that in a very short period of time, typically. So that was our job, to come into whatever was getting ready to happen and plan line by line, machine by machine, station to station. What does it mean? What do we have to do, or what's this machine going to be? What's it take to get maintenance trained on how to work on it? What's it take to get people trained to run it? Plant layout, foundation, power, whatever. We had people working on all of that. So
okay,
it was challenging, and we always, by the time you get done with one project, typically you're like 2 years ahead of launch, and by the time you get done with it, a lot of times you're starting with something else. So it was never that you were never done.
Okay. Oh, cool. That's I like hearing about that kind of stuff. Now, that a big part of being a part of the mob is, helping members with challenges on their cars and whatnot. What are some of the major challenges with your car that, either it's been through help with people in the mob or, conversation with somebody from the mob, whether it's on a private message or on the Tri-5 mob? What are some of the challenges that you faced and overcame?
Yeah, well, definitely paint. So that's been a big one. And I've had several people reach out to me about paint and how to approach some things, and maybe suggest that I try this person or that person. And then ultimately, Piano right over here has helped me overcome that hurdle. There's been other folks that have helped me. I've had some questions about air conditioning and stuff, and I've had some folks that kind of helped me out through some of that kind of thing, I think when Nick Prime was in this group originally.
Yeah, he was
right?
on. Yep.
Yeah,
he's on the wait. He's on the waiting list again. Currently, we just have so many people let in. We haven't gone through the list.
He's a chassis guy, and he had done some C4 Corvette stuff several years ago. I don't think he's done anything in a while on Tri-5 stuff. He's a Art Morrison chassis dealer and sold a bunch of Tri-5 chassis to people. And but he was very helpful to me in doing a lot of stuff on my car, answering quite a few questions and stuff about how did this work when you tried that, or this and that kind of thing. Just little details of time saving stuff and money saving too, even buying stuff you didn't work, or just better ways to do it. But
he's a good dude.
Yeah, he is a really good guy.
Awesome. So, and I'll go ahead and take the next question, guys. I think all of us can agree that plans change over time. I mean, has your direction on the car changed since you first got it? I mean, was it, envisioned the slammed on the ground dragging rockers, or was it, was there a gasser envision, or was there just kind of, this is, where I'm going, what I'm doing, and that's it.
It's never really changed a lot. My plan had always been to have a nice cruiser. I certainly never, and my car will not be a trailer queen. It's I plan on driving it a lot, and if the paint gets chipped on it, it gets chipped on it. We'll touch it up and keep on driving, because I mean, it's not going to be built as a show car or anything like that. It's just going to be a nice car, and that's why it's taken me so long to build it. I'm not a rich guy. I've done okay, but I'm not a rich guy, and I don't have big money to just go buy tons of parts or whatever. So I bought parts, and I've got nothing for Christmas for the last 10 years, but either Summit gift cards or something like that. If I get a bonus at work, then you buy a set of hood hinges or something from Vintage Air or something like that. So I've slowly over time accumulated most of the pieces I need, but my car direction has not changed. But one thing that you do have to be careful of is as I've gotten older, your memory's not as good as it was, and I've got parts I've bought multiple times. I figured out that holy cow, how did I wind up with 2 sets of body bushings, and I've got 2 sets of front end sheet metal bolts, and so I started trying to keep a list on my phone of what I've got. But it's my car's never changed. It's going to be a driver, and it's going to be a nice driver, but I'm not going to shy away from putting miles on it. And I've got several places. Some of you guys are friends with me on Facebook, and have known I've done quite a bit of stuff on Route 66, and I plan on doing some portions of it, not all, but some portions of it in that car, and probably wind up in Key West in it or something like that, or who knows where, right? We might go to the Western Invasion or something.
If you go to Key West, you got to go to the 3rd floor at the Bull and Whistle. That's all I'm going to say.
Dude, I don't know about that. Please, I don't know where you're sending me down there. Who knows, right? There's some cool places down there, and there's some way different places down there. But
So let's kind of talk about that. So what are some places you've been this year, and goals to, maybe even before your car's finished or even after it's finished? Obviously, the Route 66 thing.
Yeah, we did Route 66. It's a really fun trip. If anybody's ever thinking to do that, there's a buddy here's causing trouble. But
is that short guy over there?
I hear change. I hear change in the background.
Yeah, he's I'll leave it at that. But 66 is a really good trip. Do some research on it and go do it, or do sections of it or something. I highly suggest that. That's a really good trip to do, especially in a drive-by. Coming up here to Maine is a place I'm definitely coming back to. I had been up to New York City a time or two, but never up into this area. And I told Piano coming up, it's kind of weird. I've came through Pennsylvania now 4 or 5 times, and I don't know how in the hell, but it's been dark. It's been at night every time. And so to see part of it in the daytime, it's like, man, I'm coming back up here, and I want to come back up here. It's really pretty part of the country. But I plan on doing quite a bit of traveling. One thing since a couple of years ago, my son and I did Route 66, and then when I retired, my wife and I went back and did Route 66, and then in 2025 is actually the 100-year anniversary of the opening of Route 66. I'll probably try to do something there again, but as a result of doing Route 66, I've kind of realized that, man, back road traveling, 2-lane highway traveling is really, really cool. And there's a lot of major 2-lane highways across the U.S., and we did Highway 36 coming back from doing 66, which 36 runs all the way across from Colorado back into Indianapolis, and it's 2-lane almost all the way, and small communities, and it's just a whole different vibe. And a lot of it's pretty high-speed highway because it was the last highways for the most part before the big interstates came in. But you can make good time, and it's a whole different vibe. And there's the Lincoln Highway that runs up a little bit further up north. I think it comes through Minnesota. I don't remember, but I'm probably going to do a lot more of that. It's a lot more laid back, cool, chilled out environment, and I just enjoy it. So probably do some of that.
Nice.
Very good. Well,
All right.
Steve, now I got a question because as we've been following your progress, and then Fiano was not in the mob for a while, and I have been following Fiano's Try Five Guy YouTube page since almost day one, and I do enjoy watching. Then all of a sudden, one day, I see your pictures on the page, and and then all of a sudden, I look at this YouTube, I'm like, well, shit, that's Steve's car. So, as I'm watching one of the last videos, and I watch them all, I truly like to do that. So the question is, how cool is it to have somebody be able to work on the dash and sit on the floor and actually fit in the car to sand the dash?
Well, it's no front seat, is it?
He said there's no front seat.
Oh, yeah, I can. That's one thing. I was watching him. I'm like, God, it'd be nice to be able to get inside my car like that when I'm working on stuff. It's, I got to pull out my Speedo and fix a cable and a couple little things. I might fly him up to help me because I can't fit in the damn thing.
No doubt. He'd probably be down for that. So he and I, he moved down. He's about, 60 miles from me or something. It takes about an hour and 10 minutes to drive it. He's a little bit out in the country. But it's been, he and I have a common friend, and we've done some work on some stuff for him. But from that, have became really good friends. And he's building a house, and I'm helping him do some of that. And we just got through putting the floor joists and framed up one wall of the one wall is exposed out of the ground of his basement, framed it up and put the floor joists and sheeted the floor. And I'm going to be helping him a lot on his house, and he's helping me a lot on my car. So it's worked out really, really good. And he's doing a lot with the YouTube thing, and I encourage him to post whatever he wants to about my car and us working on stuff. It's totally cool with me, and so he's got some pretty good stuff against Try Five Guy on YouTube, and it's you can see quite a bit of interesting stuff, and learn how some stuff is done and stuff too. That's kind of the goal, is to have some stuff that's both entertaining and some stuff you can maybe learn some too. So he's doing a good job with it.
No, it's fun to watch. I mean, and he's humble, and he's like, I'm not a painter, and yet I know video and pictures can hide some, but the gloss in the dash and the color is just fantastic.
Yeah, he's done a good job. And you touched on that color, and so there's a story behind the color on my car, and some of you guys probably remember it. I don't remember which Tri-5 Nationals it was. There was a 57 there that had a color on it very similar to mine, and I know it was a top 25 car. It had black chrome bumpers and stuff on it, and it originally set up it might have been the first year, but DuPont had the paint maker DuPont had a booth up there, a tent, and it was sitting out in front of it, and then but I thought it was the prettiest color I'd ever seen on the car. Well, I went in and talked to the guy, and come to find out it wasn't DuPont paint. Of course, it was a PPG or Ditchler, I think, even maybe at that time. But color, and he said, I don't know exactly what it is, but he said we've got some stuff that's probably close to it. But anyway, so that car is the one that kind of sent me in the direction of that color, because it's kind of I don't know if I can only call it what I commonly hear it called. It's a paint with a lot of flop, and it's got a lot of black in it. It's about 75% black, and then it's got some plum and red metallic and other stuff in it. But so it has quite a bit of flop in it, and but that can be a little bit hard to do without doing tricolor paint, and tricolor paint can be, or can be, and it can be super expensive.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to go that route, or candy for sure. I know it's interesting going to candy because you bang it up, try to fix it, or I don't want to get into all that. So
yeah, Tricos can be very expensive. So I know some of them, and it's not necessarily the top coat that is always expensive. It's a lot of time it's the undercoat that's more expensive. Now, if you get into the Ford Code RR, which we have, that has a real expensive candy material that you only buy like 4 ounces at a time. And it's like $300 some odd, and you only put like you go in and you measure parts on the scale, and you put a few parts into your actual clear that you're spraying over the vehicle, and you spray one coat of that with the clear in it, and then you spray another coat of clear with just the clear. So I know exactly what that stuff's like.
So finally, I was when I was working with my first painter, and I was trying to find something that had that general look, and he used all RM stuff, and so he had the whole big chip catalog. And I don't know if you guys. People ask me, "What's that color off of?" Well, I have no idea. I don't even know if it's off of anything, and I don't think it is, from what I can understand. I had the guy pull it up in their computer system to see what colors were in it, and it didn't show it as necessarily having been on any kind of car. But so you get these, if you go to Lowe's and you see their paint areas, they got the whites into the yellows, into the reds, into the greens, into the, so each one of those main color wheelish type categories of color, has then inside of it has like 500 freaking chips. So you go through little things of chips, and you wind up with like a dozen that you think maybe has the look that you're looking for, and then you give them a little bit of money, and they mix you a sample and spray it out on something, and take it out in the sun, and then maybe 3 months later, after you drove everybody crazy spraying stuff out, you come up with something you think you like. So that's kind of what it took to do that. But
do you think the paint is, when it comes to cars, in your opinion, probably one of the top, if not top 2, top 5 decisions to make for the car?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And somebody asked me about that, what I thought was the most important things about a car. And I think, to me, it's just my opinion, but there's 3 things that are important about a car, and that's the stance, and the wheels, and the color. And if all those kind of complement each other, but you know what? I mean, you sometimes you'll see cars and you're like, man, I would have never thought that I would like that color, but there it is, and I love it. There's a car at the Nationals this year. It's a '57, and it's like it was in the top 25 last year, or not last year, year before, but that was kind of a 2-color green or green and yellow. Has a little trailer behind it. And man, I'm not a fan of green at all, but that car is freaking beautiful, and so it's just a matter of getting everything done and done nicely, and complimenting each other. And sometimes you see people pull off stuff, and you like it or you don't like it, and you think, man, they have done a phenomenal amount of work. That's the ugliest freaking car I've ever seen in my life. Or it's colors I hate, but I'd drive the hell out of that car.
That car is from Wisconsin. The guys at, I think his name's Robert McCreary. I've got him on Facebook. And he had that car done at, and I know the guys. The same guys that did the repair work on my front end in Wisconsin, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, Classics Plus. And they did that, and he's a super nice guy, but it's one of those cars that is so subtle, like it's almost like an original color, but it's not. It's very subtle. I know exactly the one you're talking about. It's a beautiful car. So I first saw it at Back to the 50s up here in 18, or is it 19? Whatever. And it was absolutely just gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a well done car, and finally, I think that you make the car what you want it to be, and people like it, they don't like it. What the hell? Who cares, right? It's your car. So do what you like, but I mean, I understand how some people, they say, well, you think this wheel's, is this too big, or is it, you think this wheel looks good on that car, and they're looking for a little reinforcement in their decision. They're probably already made up their mind anyway, but they're wanting to have a little bit of help to decide. But in the end, man, pick the color you like, or pick the wheel you like, or whatever.
Well, the first blue I picked out, I loved. I was like, 2008 Viper Bright Blue. This is awesome. Love it. $1,500 a gallon. Let's move on.
Yeah, most definitely.
I'm telling you, paint is unbelievably expensive.
Well, and then I remember when I picked my color, I got the color spray outs. I went through a dozen of them. Jim and I were driving around car lots looking at blue cars and and everything. And finally when I got the spray out of what I wanted, I couldn't look at it, but I went out in the sun and I bent it like the front fender. And I said, yep, there it is. All right, done. Yep. And then when his wheels, and I remember on the mob, I kept asking it. I put up my 4 choices because every time you go to look at wheels, I'll watch Iron Resurrection. You look at Bitch and Rides. Oh, that's the wheel. I love that wheel. And then you go look at the price, and a set of wheels is $10,000. No, I'm not doing billet specialties. That's okay. On to the next one. So.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy how much stuff costs, and it's only going to get higher. I mean, I can tell you right now.
Yeah. I've got some paint here that it's like, and my price sheet is about 10 years old. So keep in mind that it goes up like 15% every year. So my price sheet is out of date, and I keep having to add on to it. But anyways, at that point in time, I have some paints that are like over $300 just for a half pint, not for a whole pint. Half pint, 8 ounces. So that's pretty expensive. So. Yeah, that stuff's expensive, and Steve, I don't mean to cut. We're making good conversation, and I don't mean to cut us short, but I usually try and keep like I told you, I try and keep the conversation somewhere around 45 minutes, an hour, and we are well surpassed an hour here tonight. But hey, when we get 4 guys that have a similar interest, and we can talk for hours on end. Granted, I've kind of been quiet and been running the show from the background. I guess we got 2 questions left, and I think we already kind of touched on the last 2 questions. But a hard top or a post?
Well, hard top, duh.
Okay, well, we kind of knew that one was fairly obvious.
No, I like them all. Seriously, I would have no problem with owning either one of them, and I like them both. Just my personal choice is the hard top, but
I would like to see you modify yours to put the chrome headliner bows in from a 55 into your 57. I think that would set it apart.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That's an idea. I'll put that on my list of things to think about.
Yep.
And then the last
dogs or cats.
I'm allergic to cats, so it's dogs all the way.
Perfect. Fiano's out. He's got cats.
He does, but his don't bother me. I don't know why. And I'm totally. Some cats will. I don't do the big eye swell up thing or anything like that, but they definitely make me itchy and sneeze and stuff like that. But his don't bother me. Some do, some don't. I don't know why.
It's because he bathes his probably twice a day when he's at home, pets in it and cuddling it.
His are definitely spoiled. I can tell you that. Sure. He talks to them from his Ring doorbell camera thing. He talks to it multiple times a day, and that some bitch will come up to when he talks to it through the speaker. It'll come up there, and you can see it, and it's remarkable. I think it's cool, but
oh, the cat's just so happy he can look eye to eye. Yeah. So. All right. All right. Steve, awesome getting to talk a little bit more than normal, and I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to seeing that car come out of the paint booth.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll post a few more later on. I mean, right now we're doing board and shit. Nobody probably wants to see. I mean, we're just sanding weird areas and door jams and bottoms of rockers and stuff like that, just the final stuff. But we'll post some pictures here when we get a little bit further down the line.
So, hey, who would you like for us to call out next to know the next mob member?
I mean, we've got some on the schedule, but maybe somebody a car that you'd like to see on the
try Fun Guy.
He's got a cheesy plug in the background here.
Yeah. Well, the light behind you is kind of whitewashing out the camera for the video.
That was the Tri-5 guy.
Tri-5 guy.
Yeah.
Well, will he be tall enough to see up over the table to be in the picture frame?
Absolutely.
I can't really do it because I don't have a laptop or any of that stuff.
He said that he would be happy to do an interview, and that we would do whatever it took to get him on here. So he actually would be he's got some really interesting things to talk about, and
all right.
he would be a good one to have on here. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of folks on here that have done a lot with their cars, and I'd love to see some Terry Bledsoe. I'd just love to see what I know a little bit about his car and what I've seen him post, but about maybe some more of his struggle points or what his direction is, and there's been a lot of people give him advice and things like that, but I'd like to know a little bit more about what his longer term vision is with the car and things like that. But heck, I mean, finally, I wouldn't mind to hear from everybody on here about their car, and what they're doing to it.
I'd like to know.
Maybe have 3 or 4 people on the show or something like that.
I'd like to know why, as I saw today, why Jed Gage, we should have him on. Super nice guy, met at the Nationals, him and his wife. I'd like to know what warrants having a 370 amp alternator.
Holy hell! Must be.
He's probably got a lot of electronics on that car.
Amp alternator. I don't know what you're doing with that thing.
He must be going to put a heat pump in the trunk instead of a vintage air unit or something.
Right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Mike Schroeder says Mike Schroeder started his car and his motor went out because he thinks his oil pump quit working. So he's busy. He's putting in a different L53. I believe it's a 5.3. That's what he's doing. He says he's going to do another live start this weekend. Jed Gage just told me to be nice. I said I question my alternator if I have a good enough alternator because it's 140 amp for me, and I'm told that I should have 160 and whatever. That might change. It's not a big deal. But when I saw him put up there, it was like 370 or 320 amps. I'm like, good God, you're starting buildings.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Well, all right. I think that's going to do it for this week. I really appreciate you joining us this week here, Steve. Craig and Joey, as always, thanks for joining. And we'll rock out. We're going to see you guys next week. And have a good week. Talk to y'all later.
All right. Thanks.
Awesome, guys.
See you.
Thanks for tuning in to Try 5 Talk with your hosts Daniel Check, Craig Westfenning, Joey Truelove, and a special thank you for our background designer Chad Reynolds, and a special thank you as well for our production analyst Joe Miller. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you next time.